Almost all artists have used bases at some point. They aren't uncommon things. However, if you don't know what bases are, let me explain. Bases are often humans or animals with all accessories, clothing, and hair taken away from them. You're just left with a body. In some cases though, some hair or clothes will be kept. Beginner artists either trace the bases or draw over them, since they aren't yet skilled enough to start from scratch. I'm going to explain a few cons to using bases, however at the end I will state some pros. Con number 1. Bases encourage plagiarism. Plagiarism is the act of stealing somebody else's work and claiming it as your own. I'm not talking about people stealing bases on their own, I'm talking about using bases and pretending you haven't. Since it's often beginner artists that do this, it can be easy to tell who has used a base and who hasn't. However, there are many popular artists that trace and hide it very well. Not every plagiarist is a child with no art skill, and people seem to forget that. I know what I'm talking about here since I used to trace bases too. It can be very tempting to draw over somebody else's work if you can't get a pose quite right. Bases ruin more people than help them. If you get caught plagiarizing, that could ruin your reputation for a long time, especially if you're to such an extent that numerous people talk about you. Plagiarizing bases just isn't worth it if you consider all the bad things that can happen to you. Con number 2. Bases don't display your art skill. Bases help you a lot when drawing. It's like buying a mannequin and being able to put a wig and clothes on it without worrying about anything else. Drawing something and having the most important part pre-made for you isn't going to showcase your true talents and suddenly make you better. Proper understanding of anatomy is possibly one of the most important things when drawing humans or animals. People seeing your art won't know the true extent of your knowledge. You won't be able to become popular or make money by playing a dress-up game with your art piece. However, I guess bases aren't all bad. You can use them to easily practice drawing clothes and hair if those are things you struggle with most. If you use bases to privately practice certain things, I really don't care. It's the people who use bases for serious artworks in an attempt to make their skill look better that bother me. Overall, I don't think bases are very good to use. Take this video however you will, since these are just my opinions. However, if you want to get better, bases aren't the way to go. Goodbye.